This morning I had a chance to go live with Charles Heller down at the KVOI AM 1030 studio to be on Charles's show, Liberty Watch Radio, and have an hour with his audience to talk about the Shooter's Almanac. Now, I probably did not do a good job of explaining to Charles that I prepared sort of a 20-minute blab about the project that I hope addresses most of the questions. And then my goal was to open it up to Q&A from the people listening to address any questions or some of the topics, like maybe even the two-way rally that's coming up in November. But if you'll allow me to, as Charles says, narrowcast, I'm going to do the 20-minute attempt here to kind of offer Charles what this would have been. And anybody who might be interested to listen, feel free. And then to give me a little practice for future shows so that I hopefully won't waste anyone else's time with this. So this is an introduction, or this is, excuse me, Charles would, I'm assuming, introduce me at the show here. And this is where I would say, thanks, Charles, for the opportunity to join in. It's a unique treat to be on this side of the speakers or the mic. I've been listening to Charles for many years. And Charles is an inspiration, one of the people that inspired me to get off my butt and become a Second Amendment activist. So what we're talking about today is the Shooter's Almanac. This is a project I've been working on for many years. I've been involved in firearms and I guess firearms media since 2004 when I first started taking cameras to SHOT Show and taking those pictures and showing them to people and sharing them online. My goal has always been to share our Second Amendment in our community with, well, at first it was literally just for my friends back east who can't do the things we can do in Arizona, so it's sort of a haha, and just to to have friends and share using the new tech of the internet. But then eventually, as more people, people besides my intermediate friends, started finding the content and appreciating it, it developed, and we've explored the various platforms over the years. Been in the biz now for 15 years. I've been a fly on the wall for a lot of industry events and things that have happened, like the 23 executive actions that were proposed by Obama, and the grassroots resistance that came up that prevented that in 2013. And that's sort of the roots of the Shooter's Almanac. Charles got me to go to the first gun rights policy conference back in 2015, and since then I've been eagerly consuming as much information about our Second Amendment history as possible. And unfortunately, most of that is in books. I've been posting my notes or my findings as I discover them onto websites, a project that we created actually in Charles's living room called MinutemanUniversity.com. And over the years now, since 2015, when that project started, it's basically been my notes. As I discover new people, let's say Diane Mueller, who recently sat in front of a committee of Congress and suggested we will not comply. She said, we will not comply with a new assault weapons ban. It could not be more clear. So heroes like Diane Mueller finding out, that she's the one that created the DC project, the 50 ladies that go to DC every year. She's involved. She was a 23-year veteran of the Tulsa Police Department. These are things that are important and are difficult to discover, and not everyone has the same interest or ability to get that information out there. So the Shooter's Almanac is not just a calendar, it's instead a new way to experience Second Amendment history. So it's daily, weekly, and monthly information and inspiration. Specifically, it's a 68-page, full-color, pocket-sized reference. Now, our 2A history is confusing. There are many people, industry events, things throughout the year to keep track of, to try to attend or to appreciate, to be aware of. And then there's a need to motivate and educate. So I hope to accomplish clearing up some of the confusion, bringing history into our hands in a new way, making it clear what's happening throughout the year so that nothing gets ignored or overlooked, and then along the way to motivate and educate. That's my goals. Now, I've kind of mentioned I've been doing this for a while. This is a project specifically that's 3 years in development, and I'm doing this as a crowdfunding campaign. I'm doing this on the Indiegogo platform, which is I consider it a social media platform. It's different than YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and some of the others in the respect that it's focused on funding independent projects, but very much like Kickstarter or other crowdfunding services, it does allow the financial support either through subscriptions or um, contributions, but it also allows the person creating content to have very good interaction with the people that are participating. So it is a social media platform, and it's a lucrative one, especially for those of us in the Second Amendment industry. There are 50,000 people creating content there, and there is $1 million being uh, pushed through the Indiegogo platform to those 50,000 creators. So there's definitely some opportunity. It's an established way of creating content, very much with the business model or the model of a PBS or an NPR radio, where you're funding through subscription and from the audience, and not through an appeal to advertisers and to an appeal to make your viewers buy or purchase or use a service. Instead, you can, as a content creator, focus on your flavor or your specific area of interest or your extreme um, nuance that normally would be outside the realm of sponsorship. So the Indiegogo campaign, or the Indiegogo platform, I believe is a valid one. This is my 31st project on that platform. They're not all huge. I'm not rich. However, this isn't a money-making project necessarily. This is a project to bring people together to create something that, well, the market isn't screaming for it. It doesn't need to exist. It's my attempt to bring our Second Amendment history in an interesting way into people's hands. But I could probably go to an investor and say, here's an idea. I can make the books for this much money. We can sell them for this much money more. Let's make some money. That wasn't the goal. The goal is to allow people to realize that crowdfunding is a viable option. And for those of us who are in areas where the platforms and the media can easily just turn their head and ignore us, an opportunity for those of us who have interest in not just firearms, but liberty or other areas of interest that might be shunned by the larger masses. Then it gives us all an opportunity to fund with a smaller but more active viewership or subscriber base. So that's why we're doing it on the Indiegogo campaign. It'll last for 23 days. It'll end on October 26th, which is the anniversary of the shootout at the OK Corral. It's also the birthday of Harry Derringer back in 1855, and it's the anniversary of the Protection of Lawful Commerce Act, the thing that Hillary Clinton's been trying to remove, which kind of stops Glock from being sued if a bad guy uses their model of gun or something. So I try to pick anniversaries to end and start the campaigns. So we've got a few more weeks. If you're interested in the Shooter's Almanac, the link to this actual campaign is kind of long and complicated. It doesn't do well trying to read it off. But if you go to shootersalmanac.com, easy to remember, shootersalmanac.com, you can get linked right over to the campaign. It'll last for 23 days, although we'll probably have them printed ahead of time so that we can have them made for the 2A rally that's coming up in Washington, D.C. on November 2nd. This was something that, again, I've been passionate about. I've, as a person who's been involved in the media, it's been frustrating. I think our biggest adversary to our Second Amendment is potentially apathy. People that get frustrated or lose their drive based on all kinds of things. Life happens. They have disagreements online or something. So there's so many things that can discourage us. We don't have the backers, the financial backers, like some of the other positions do, and we don't bust ourselves in. We're not that type of people. We're individuals. We're the cats that they claim are hard to herd. So this is a project to bring our information, to give us an awareness of the shoulders we stand on, and to make us aware of the events that'll be happening next year, and an effort to have a bunch of books printed or get a bunch of people together to have a bunch of books printed, ideally to get them in as many hands as possible. So I hope I've answered all the questions. I'd be more than happy to answer specific questions if the callers want to call in, or if Charles has any specific questions, or if we need to go to break. But thanks again for the time, and looking forward to chatting about this and potentially the 2A rally that's coming up in November.